Arizona Lindsay, and you're listening to The Anthony Rogers Show. If you too are grieving the loss of a loved one this holiday season, you're not alone. Here's a new song that I just put out called I'm Not Ready for Christmas, and it's about just that.
Everything keeps on moving, but I'm still here, stuck in this loop. Trying to be grateful for each day while missing you. Wish I could say I feel at home, but I don't. Everyone likes to talk, cause no one wants to listen to the silence in the room, or the masochist who mentions it. I don't feel joy, I feel the cold inside.
You are now listening to the greatest show in the universe.
Hey man, this is Tommy Chong, and right now you're listening to the Anthony Rogers Show.
Hey, this is Jordan Belfort, the real Wolf of Wall Street, and you're listening to the Anthony Rogers Show.
The Anthony Rogers Show.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Sean Danielson from Smile Empty Soul, and you are listening to the Anthony Rogers Show.
The Anthony Rogers Show.
Brian Vanderek from the Verb Pipe here, and you're listening to the Anthony Rogers Show.
Hey, this is James Jude Courtney, Michael Myers, a.k.a. The Shape, in Halloween 2018, Halloween Kills, and the soon-to-be-released Halloween Ends. And this is the Anthony Rogers Show.
I am Dave Holmes from MTV and Esquire Magazine, and you're listening to the Anthony Rogers Show.
What's up, everybody? WWE Hall of Famer, the Godfather, and cannabis expert, and connoisseur, and you're watching the Anthony Rogers Show. Peace.
Hey, it's your favorite comedian, Anthony Rogers. This Christmas, make sure there's some Smokies edibles under your tree. Gluten-free, dairy-free, vegan, no corn syrup. Way better than other edibles on the market. Get them, get them, get them. Eat responsibly, obviously. Like when you watch the show and you're not doing anything, or you're at work or anything like that. That's obvious, but some people have to hear that. Definitely, these are the watermelon. My favorite is the peach. I just grabbed these last night for something different. Sour watermelon sounded cool. I've had them before, but I just wanted a little, something different, you know? So make sure they're under your tree this Christmas for the person you care about. Make sure that's 21 and over. Make sure they're 21 and over. Anyway, put these under your tree. Buy them as gifts. Buy them for yourself. They're amazing. Eat them before the show. Eat them before every episode, like me.
Luxurious Bastard Beard Co. is the best in beard care products. Grow a beard, be a man, and use Luxurious Bastard Beard Co. Use promo code LEGENDARY to get a discount. And get your Christmas shopping done early. Luxurious Bastard Beard Co. Link in description.
At Revolution Coffee Company, we are dedicated to giving you the best cup of coffee you have ever had, while supporting those who keep us safe. We roast our coffee daily, and we offer same-day shipping. Our coffee never sits in a warehouse or a shelf getting stale. Our prices beat our competition, and our coffee speaks for itself. Check us out at revolutioncoffeecompany.com.
Anthony Rogers Show podcast. My question for you is, what would you do if you became president to help the working class?
Well, you know, I think the principal thing right now is housing. That the price of housing is going up, and it's beyond the reach of most American families.
Along with oil and gas and food.
Yeah. Inflation is hurting everybody. And inflation is more complex. I can't say that I'm going to stop inflation overnight. What I can say is that I'm going to stop the long-term cause of inflation. I'm going to unravel the war machine. I'm going to reduce dramatically healthcare costs by ending the chronic disease.
Welcome back to the greatest show in the entire universe. You're welcome. We're here today. My name's Anthony Rogers. You're not. Robert F. Kennedy's going to do nothing for the poor. Did you hear that? That's good. He's going to stay rich. That's fine. That's fun, guys. I'm just messing around. We're not going to get political here. We're actually going to have huge musician on here. I believe this is her second time on here. She has played. You may have seen the intro the last week or so. I forget exactly how long. I think it's been 2 weeks or so. I played that intro. Good Christmas song, kind of relatable to a lot of people, I imagine. Also, she's played songs on the YouTube. I sound like an old man. The YouTube, but the Anthony Ryder Show YouTube page. There's a couple songs from Arizona Lindsay on there as well. She's sick and she's still here because she works harder than you. So that's why she's where she's at, because she outworks everybody, and that's why she's here, even sick. How you doing?
Hi, thanks for having me.
Hey, you're welcome. Yeah, no, I was realizing this is like your second time on here. As I think you played. We had you on one time before playing songs, I think, and so if anybody wants to see that, it was awesome. I thought it was awesome. Like, you got a lot of good music and stuff, and it's cool seeing you like evolve as an artist. Like, I think I've followed you for a couple of years at this point now, which is like kind of how. I mean, just like what the internet is, just like you follow these people and watch them like grow as like artists and stuff. I feel like I've done that. It's cool seeing what you all your songs and stuff. I mean, they're good. So if people haven't listened, definitely look up Arizona Lindsay after this podcast, not right now. But yeah, no, I think you have a lot of good stuff. So what's currently going on to start this off with the cheesiest question? But I mean, I want to hear the answer though. Otherwise, what's going on currently?
So I did just put out the song I'm Not Ready for Christmas, and I really, because of that song and genuinely like the holiday season being here, I've been talking a lot more about things like grief and loss over the past couple of weeks, a little bit more, and really it's been cool because I've gotten to hear a lot of different people who unfortunately relate to the reason that I had written the song, and hear, I've seen even people just like stitching the song and showing somebody that they've lost. So it's a sad experience, but it's also like, it's nice to know you're not alone. And I feel like as a musician, we're always saying we want other people to know they're not alone, but I've definitely gotten a lot out of putting it out myself.
Yeah, you sound like you have like a Boston accent when you're sick. Like you got like certain like yeah, you normally don't sound like. I'm just messing around, but no, I think that's awesome. I think you touched on something that I haven't seen anybody successfully touch on like that. It was like, I think like I mean, I love the holiday season for like like for an aspect of it, but I'm not blind to the fact that we definitely miss our ancestors and miss family members that aren't at the table like you. I mean, I'm paraphrasing on what you said, and I think my mom's been sick for a while, so I can kind of relate. I mean, like I said, I didn't deal with like somebody like. She didn't like die, but she got like really sick, and I'm still kind of like helping her through that. So I mean, I could somewhat relate to that, but I mean, I could relate more for like my grandparents and like stuff like that, like obvious stuff, So I mean, and it's definitely something nobody touches on, and it's real, and it seems real to you. So it's like that's like your truth, so that's why it works. I mean, that's that's what it seems like to me. It's like true art's just yourself,
It's they always say that authenticity sells, and I see one of my fans commenting Boston.
It sounds like you have a cough drop and a Boston accent when you're sick. That's exactly what it sounded like to me. I was like,
you know what it is I think I definitely have a heavy Long Island accent, and then you couple that in with the nasalness, and it's just like it's very unique.
Maybe that's all a Boston accent is a Long Island accent with nasally, Maybe that's all it is.
I figured it out. But yeah, I think even just like I've seen some people that have, used the song to talk about somebody who's like in a long distance relationship, or they've gone through a breakup recently. And I think that's the thing about grief too, is even, with your mom, sometimes it's that they are still here and there's just something really big going on. And the holidays are happy because you get to, see people that you love, but there's also a lot of loss and I think reflection that happens at the end of the year for a lot of people, and that can be difficult.
I definitely agree, and I think like you kind of like summed it up in your song a lot. I think that was yeah, I think that was good because I mean there's enough happy Christmas songs, I want to be traumatized, I want to be completely traumatized. No, I'm just messing around. But no, I think that was like that was actually a good song, I think, and I think like I can see how that would affect people because like you hit a tone, but it was like real to you, but then like almost vague enough to apply to other people. in like different situations, almost like the lyrics and stuff. And I'm more of a lyric guy, and I like that you write good lyrics. So I'm like, like your songs sound good, but I'm way more about lyrics, and I could always appreciate somebody that's a good writer. I think like if I was talented, that's what I would do. But I have to live vicariously through other talented people. But no, I think that's like, what made you want to write that? I mean, other than like obvious reasons, or was it an obvious reason? Like,
Well, to be honest, so I had a song that was supposed to be coming out at the end of November, and I had been releasing a song like once a month since I think around May. And my goal was to try to, as an artist, you're always trying new things to try to see what's going to stick. Um, and kind of just also building your own discography and whatever. So I had a song that was planned to come out, and I only had the instrumental at this point written with me and Donnie Klang for the song I'm Not Ready for Christmas. But when it came down to putting the song that was supposed to go out at the end of November, I was like, wait a minute, it's going to come out the day after Thanksgiving. Like, that everyone's going to be listening to Christmas music. Like, this is so, why would I put this out? I worked so hard on it. I want people to hear it. And it was 2 days before there's a specific date that you have to send the song out to distribution so that it gets out in time. And we were 2 days away from that mark, and everyone's looking at me like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, we need to finish this Christmas song. So, I went into the studio, I finished the end of the instrumental with Donnie, and then I wrote and recorded the song on the same day, and we finished mixing and mastering the same day that we sent it in for distribution. And I just wanted to write something that actually, exactly what you said, that was specific towards me and my experience, having lost my mom and going through the holidays, and at the same time, vague enough where I do this thing in my songs where I like to put a small amount of these really specific details that I am so surprised when people relate to it. Like in this song, I said, once a year that you loved me enough to like me. And I did not expect as many people to point out that line and say how much it resonated with them as it did. So I just kind of rambled on, but that's the answer to your question.
No, I think that was a perfect answer. I mean, that's why, like people want to hear you talk. That's why you're here. If they want to hear me talking, I'd just be talking. Like I can get a great answer. Without, I mean, if I ask a question you don't want to answer, just don't, no pressure. But like, what happened to your mom? If that's not too personal or crazy to ask on a podcast.
My mom, we lost her in June of 2018. And it was unexpected, and it was 2 weeks after I had put down a deposit on my house that I was moving into upstate to start grad school. So there was a lot of change already kind of in the air. And on that subject, I think that's what I would probably share, is just that I think loss in general is hard, even when you know it's going to happen.
I couldn't imagine that.
Adding in the unexpected aspect, I think, can lead to just a different kind of component of trauma, even in a situation like me and my mom, where we didn't really have the best relationship. It was still hard.
Yeah, that's got to be crazy young. That probably would happen to me if my mom got sick when we were young, because I felt like I was like way more argumentative as a child. Like, and like, it's hard to get along with, like, if you're too similar, it's hard to get along too. It's like my mom and I are both like bold, like leaders kind of people, so we butt heads a lot. And I think like I can imagine if something happened to my mom when I was young, I'd be in the same situation as you. I mean, I could totally see that, but I think like I was lucky enough to like live long enough to like repair that and stop being a loser, because I was kind of a loser. I mean, it's my personal story, but I'm saying, like, I'm not calling you in, just but I'm saying, like, my personal. Yeah, I have to clarify that it sounds mean, but no, I'm just saying, like, I think I was able to. I could see how that'd be crazy, like the unresolvedness of like youth and like the hostility of that. I could see how that'd be crazy, and like and I don't think a soul holds on to that. I think it's like an earthly problem. I think the soul's wise enough to see past all that. I'd like to assume,
I like to think of that too. I like to assume that, I mean, nobody's perfect, obviously, but especially with situations where there's a lot of like abuse um, or, like I would say repetitive different types of, trauma that builds up over time. It's kind of like, I don't think that if she had lived longer that would have disappeared. But I do think that I would have probably grown into a point um, where I had more. I think I think at that time in my life, I was at a point where I felt just very like indifferent because I was like, if I care, I'm gonna hate you, and I don't want to hate anybody, so I'm just gonna kind of distance myself. And it was a really hard thing for me to do. And then for that to happen, it was kind of like, for a long time, it was a lot of self-blame and a lot of shame. And then you come to this realization of like, you know, I think that the healthy version of my mom would have been proud of me for holding that boundary, even if it was with her. So I always try to think of the soul as definitely being like hindsight is always 2020, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I feel like all time's happening at the same time. It just feels slower in this like it's through a slow vibration in the human body. That's kind of how I feel. I feel that way. I don't know if it's accurate, but no, that's crazy. And like you definitely talk. I mean, the way I see you as an artist, and I'm not like, I don't mean this in any kind of emotional way, more than a logical way. Just like I kind of see you as like a positive person with like a rain cloud following you or something. You have like you seem like you have like this dark energy kind of thing, but you're somehow like able to stay optimistic and positive through it, which I've always kind of respected because I think like I've definitely dealt with depression, and I think a lot of people have, and I think that I don't handle it as well as you seem to, at least. You mean it's just yeah, I feel like you seem like you have like this kind of like happy personality, like despite like all this crazy stuff. And like what kind of I guess what I'm asking is what kind of things would you do to kind of beat depression or like whatever would be depression, I guess. What are some tactics you personally use? I think if that's a question.
Well, first I'll say that I think one of my talents since I was a kid is being able to, um, like, even when I was a kid and I was like going through some really, horrible things, I was still, showing up to school and smiling and joking around. I think that to some people that would come off as, pushing down emotions but I think that for me, it was trying to find joy in the part of life that wasn't impacted by those negative things. Um, and I think that's how I've always kind of tried to look at it is like, in this moment, who I'm with and, um, and the fact that there's something good that I can take out of it. As far as depression in particular, I would say a mix of it's definitely like a third each of like medication, therapy, and then coping skills. Cause I feel like one without the other for me would not, like coping skills without the medication for me would not unfortunately be enough. There was a point, especially like going to school for mental health where you're learning about coping mechanisms and how to teach them to other people. And you're like, well, why isn't it working? And you're like, well, maybe there's just like some chemicals that aren't balanced out the right way. And, the brain also changes from trauma. There is legitimate like changes that happen and, the brain develops differently. And so sometimes we do need, medication too, to help kind of weigh that out. So, it's impossible to know what was there, what wasn't. And, but I would say, as far as the coping skills, obviously, some of the more creative things, like I am horrible at art, but I love painting and um, I love just like creating things like watercolors, acrylics, um, and doing the opposite has been a big coping skill for me as well. Like, if I feel like laying in bed and I really, really don't want to move, given if I have enough willpower over the situation, getting up and going for a walk, even if it's like to the bathroom and back, just like doing the opposite of what my brain is kind of telling me that I should do um, because I know that, going under the covers and hiding in the corner of the room is not something I could do on the regular.
Yeah, yeah, you still get anything done like that. Yeah, if you feel the way you want to, yeah, you never get anything done. That's a lot of good information. And so, I mean, I think I have a huge distrust for the pharmaceutical industry, but if it helps other people, I respect that, and I think it's whoever's decision. But I mean, I eat a lot of edibles and stuff, like the sponsor. I eat those daily. I eat those like daily. It's just an easy kind of like dopamine dump, and like kind of like and like I think it helps me deal with like terrible things like without emotion as much. Or I think it like help like I mean to see my mom sick is insane. Like so it's like your brain like I think at one point my eyes try to like not see. Like even like my eye would go my coping mechanism was my eye going blind, and like I've been and it's been like 4 years of that, so it's always the same. I think I'm about out of it. I think I ever like almost walking again and stuff. I think it's all the fights paying off and stuff. But I mean, I could see how if I didn't smoke weed as much as I did or eat edibles as much as I did, I'd probably be insane with just like whatever emotion I'm trying to ignore, Like I think like I could see how like I mean so I say I self-medicate even if I'm like critical of like the pharmaceutical industry. So I still agree with you, is what I'm saying. And then like the therapy thing I agree with too, is like I think I vent to I vent to some people I have around me, and that kind of counts. I don't I feel like it's like the original therapist, friends,
Yeah, there's a lot of value that we can get out of our support systems just in our lives, whether it be a partner or, like really close friendships, as long as they're safe people to talk to and you're able to actually, talk about what's going on and talk about how you're feeling, then I always say that's the best thing you could ask for in general. Even with therapy, having a therapist is great. It gives you a safe space to process things that maybe you might not want to share with your friends, or maybe just get a professional's like take on something if you need that, but um ultimately having a support system is one of the most important things, in my opinion, to having like good mental health.
Oh, dude, I agree totally. Yeah, I'd be lost without my friends. I mean, especially through my 20s. I mean, now it's like whatever. But, I mean, not whatever. I'm not saying that, but like, it's easier. I'm old now, so it's like easier. I can like process things. I'm like 37. It's easier for me to process things. Like everything feels so real when you're in your 20s, and like everything seems so like life or death, And like now it's just kind of like but stuff's happened before, Like it's like it's like how I feel old, It's like or not necessarily. I mean, getting older, It's kind of like oh yeah, everybody dies, whatever, It's like I mean, I kind of feel like it's like kind of it's a terrible thing, and I don't mean numb to it, but it's just like it's more obvious. Like I mean, what I mean, like your first major family deaths, like what? Oh man, people die. You're like, what? People die. You're like, I was a kid when I experienced it. Now I'm just like, I mean, I wouldn't say it'd be easy, but it's like easier.
No, it makes a huge difference to have exposure to those type. Actually, I was reading my senior year of my undergrad. I took a class. It was called Death, Dying, and Society, and it was as happy as you'd imagine it to be. But there was a really interesting part of the book where it was talking about America in its early days and how detached we've become from death, and how that's really impacted mental health. Like in older days, it was expected that your grandparents like lived with you, and so usually that would be the first death that children were exposed to. And this might sound really really morbid to us, but at that time, even the children would still sleep with the person that passed away for the next few days while they were preparing for the funeral. They would help, dig the grave. They would help with this whole process that we now hand over, not only to other people, but it's less common that, our grandparents are living in our homes. It's less common that kids are experiencing death early on in life, and what that looks like and what that means, and having those conversations and learning how to cope. And then, that kind of just creates a recipe for this idea, like more fear getting built behind, what that would look like. Not saying that it shouldn't bring fear, but you can see like back then we didn't have probably as many types of really intense mental health stuff surrounding grief.
Yeah, no, I think America relies, I mean, the American power structure relies on unresolved trauma. It's easier to brainwash people. So any kind of like unresolved, I mean, okay, like I was watching, I mean, I keep referencing my personal situation just as a point of reference. It's all I have. I mean, it's all the only perception I have. Like watching my mom deal with this, I watched like the hospital or like wealth care industry basically like prey on her and sell her things the entire time. And then I watched because a lot of people don't want to deal with this. Like when I would talk to other people, like everyone told me to put her in a nursing home. Like except for my wife. My wife didn't. I'm not gonna like my wife didn't say that obviously, but like every relative I asked, every person I asked, they're like, oh, just throw it in a nursing home. And I'm like, do you care about people? I'm like, not to be rude, but it's just like, do you understand what that does to people? And like, how do you? I mean, does anybody care about people? Like, it's just like, it's like bizarre to me. And like, I don't know. And it's weird to see. It's like like so you have a one faction of people just selling her things she'll never use and drugs you get addicted to and like whatever else, and then like on the other side just trying to sell and they come over just trying to sell her death all the time. Like I know you might be tired. Like you might be tired. Should we put her in a hospital? Like I'm just like what? Because I'm tired. They're just waiting for you to mess up. I feel like it's like the structure. They're waiting to steal her, basically steal her, kill her, milk her assets, and then have strangers bury her, and then I'm just supposed to just like watch it all happen. That's kind of what they expect from me. I feel like that but it's just really weird, and I'm like kind of like not like that. I'm kind of like I'm not a person like that. I'm not like a coward or anything. And I feel like I may just like it's a stressful, crazy situation, but at the same time, way better than the alternative. Like if something was, that's how I feel. It's like I don't know. Maybe I'm touching a lot of personal stuff today. But I don't know, but it's like I feel like it's relevant. That's kind of artist you are, so it brings it out of me a little bit. Because I think like the posts you make are really kind of like inspiring. I think to a lot of people, and even people in the comments were saying that your music personally helped them get through like the healing process. And I think that's I think that's your gift. I think that's your gift. And from what it sounds like, you probably dealt with way more than me. And I just complain more. I like to be honest, I had an easy childhood. I was a spoiled moron. I had it made, and I'm the only thing that was ever in my way. And I want to be upfront about that. Like a lot of people have it way worse than me, and like, but it's still like there's nothing worse so far than seeing your mom wither away in front of you. I would never say, you know what I mean? Like the sudden thing's crazy. Because like my wife experienced that with her dad. He just dropped one day, like just done, massive heart attack, crazy, which is also terrible. But having like 10,000 goodbyes is just as bad, I'd argue, because like watching a person die in front of you and come back and like all these different things. It's been nuts. But I think I'm a Christian. I don't know if you are or not, but I believe in Jesus. I believe in the healing power of Christ and stuff. And like I watched it happen. I watched miracles. My mom's like, her being on earth still is a miracle to me. I watched her die. I watched her come back. I think she has unfinished business here, and I think that her soul decided that. But like when we're out of our body, we know everything. We're in it. We're at that amnesia, that soul amnesia. I feel like that's how I feel. And I think that like it's a miracle she's even here, and like she's starting to walk now. Like, these people told her she'd die. Everyone said she'd die. They tried to sell her pills, and she's almost walking again. It's like and like that whole experience is a weird roller coaster. Is what I'm trying to say. That's the point I'm trying to say. And I want to add reference points, so I was just like, oh yeah, things are crazy. That just sounds dumb. But I'm saying like that's how and I think that kind of like your video, and that's why I think I was like so drawn to it more so, was like it hit a lot of spots like that. It just reminded me, even if we had totally different experiences, and like and I imagine losing your mom young is way worse. If we were to compare, that's way worse. I feel like a guy just complaining at this point, but I think that like I think it was relatable, and I think I could almost see it through my mom too. Because I think her dad died when she's like 25, so I could kind of see that like a lot in other people that I've seen happen. And my wife's dad died young for her too, So I could kind of see. I can relate to it a lot with the people I care about the most, That's what I'm trying to say in the longest way possible. But I was like,
No, I'm really grateful that you shared that, and I would and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I would imagine that even just talking about it is like difficult, um, because it sounds like a difficult situation to kind of just be in for anybody. And I think there's this there's this weird thing where I think you don't get comfortable in situations like that. You just become more comfortable being uncomfortable, if that makes sense. It's like you're trying so hard to survive and really and be able to handle these really tough emotions. And like you said, you're like looking at someone you love in front of you, and you're watching them really struggle and be in distress, and that is just as difficult as anything else. And as far as you saying you said a few times, I know that other people have it worse, or I'm complaining. I think one of the things that our society kind of places on us is this idea that if you are speaking about your troubles, that it's often seen as this some sort of level of not being grateful for what you have. And I think that's really untrue. I think it takes more strength to acknowledge. I was actually just writing about this earlier today. So weird that it came up, but like it takes more strength to acknowledge pain and to acknowledge the stressful things and the difficult emotions than it does to place a blanket of positivity on top of it, because that in its own way, to some people, they're like, well, you have to learn how to choose peace and do this. And it's like, but you also have to work through this kind of stuff. And there is stuff that you just don't work through. You just learn how to live with it. And that is peace for a lot of people, is being able to hold that, because eventually that stuff will come back up. If you do not process it and you do not hold it and take care of those parts of you, they will make themselves known. And that, I mean, that for me was, my experience. Like, losing my mom was one of the worst things that it is the worst thing that I've been through. But from years and years of, going through trauma and being in, going into my early 20s and following those patterns that I knew, being in those cycles of abusive relationships, it was stuff that I kept being like, that was from my childhood. I'm over it. Like, I'm an adult now. And then, one day I wake up and my brain's like, hey, listen, we're checking out. Like, I can't do this anymore. And, that's when I started having, just unpredictable flashbacks and dissociating and just so many other symptoms that, for me, it felt like I woke up one day and I just had all these problems, like emotionally, mentally, psychologically. And, therapy has taught me that, like, it may have onset that way, the trauma disorder stuff, but it was always building. And it was this, it's like the same coping skill that helps get through those years of dealing with it, of being like, I'm just going to move away. Like, when I was a kid, I'd be like, I'm just gonna one day and none of this shit's going to matter. And then, you get really good at it. And then one day you're like, why am I drinking orange juice in my kitchen? And now all of a sudden I'm sitting at the kitchen as a kid at a table and there's people yelling, like, like, you can't, your brain will start to kind of break apart if you don't nurture the parts of you that need nurturing. And, I think one of the things you mentioned of, turning to your friends, like, that's something that I've had to learn how to do, because I never wanted to be seen as the negative person or someone who wasn't grateful for whatever. And, now when I'm having a bit of a day, like, I still have to think about it, but I'll call my friends and I'm like, yo, this is going on. And it's like so upsetting. And I know it's probably not important, but it is, because it's bothering me. So it's, it's hard.
No, I totally get that. I'm definitely blessed to have a good group of friends. Like, and that's the kind of thing too. It's like it messes with my anger. I think when I'm like depressed, so I'll just like go off on somebody about things that don't really matter, and then I'm like apologizing later, and I'm just like, because I'm like not a shitty person, or I'm just gonna be like, oh, that's so right, yeah, I'm gonna double down on just being a terrible mean person, even just being mean. And that's the hardest thing for me, is being positive. Probably, I think that's the. I mean, I see, and I even see like the long term. I see it's all gonna be fine. I'm not like, and I don't think it's delusion. Although several people have told me that, but I think that they just have no understanding of the situation, And like, and God bless them. May they one day have eyes open, But I feel like, but no, I feel like I have this unique ability, because like to kind of like deal with situations nobody else can. But I mean, my thing was like, okay, so like say 3 years ago, in the height of all this, when it was like really bad. Now it's getting better. Now it's getting better. Like, so 3 years ago, it'd be like, okay, my mom like literally can't use her arms or half her body today, and it was random. It was like just like the day before she could, and then it's like, okay, 5 minutes, you have to talk to Tommy Chong. Like, I mean, it's just like that's like that's what my life's like. So it's sort of like this roller coaster of like all these terrible things, and then I have to act professional and like interview like some person that I think shouldn't even be. I mean, even talking to me, bro. like realistically shouldn't even be talking to me. And then like it's a crazy roller coaster of all my dreams happening at the same time, all the worst thing ever. And I'm like, I'm like doing like comedy tours now. I'm doing awesome business wise. But then like it comes down to like just real life, and I'm like, man, it's just like I just like it's a lot. and there's nothing I can do, ever to get out of it. Really, to be honest, like it's just like this mindset. And I think but I think I do believe in miracles, and I do think it's all going the right way. And like I think it took me, I don't know. I've been through a million horror films these last 4 years. That's what it feels like. Like I had to chase like a million fears away. And I think that's the only way we can really be good. It's like evil has no real hold in this world. Whatever darkness and demons and whatever else. I mean, they're just in pain. It's just a bunch of people in pain, and they prey on people in pain. And you just have to fight darkness with light. That's the only thing you can really do.
I think it's so admirable that you are able to, I would, in my own words, say that is hope. That is being able to look at the future and say, this is going to get better. This is not going to last forever. This is, and that is something that I have been working on, because I am like the queen of catastrophizing. Like if it's like, it's funny because there was one day that somebody had pointed out to me. Here's a funny kind of small anecdote. When I was in trauma treatment, we were sitting at a table that's like full of, the patients. We're talking, we're hanging out. It's a voluntary treatment center. Everyone's pretty, like mostly like military personnel, like people that have been through trauma with that, or like severe cases of, childhood abuse, things like that. So my point is that all of us are there for a very similar reason, and we have a lot of things in common, but also you'll notice a lot of trauma survivors tend to be very, very like intellectually bright and very self-aware, sometimes to a fault. And so we're sitting at the table, and I'm doing this worksheet, and I have to write all of my maladaptive behaviors. So, like compulsive cleaning, like the person next to me is like writing, what drugs they use. And I'm like, I clean too much. And it seems silly until you're like realizing, oh, okay, this is how this works for me, and what my life looks like with the compulsiveness and like whatever. And I'm skipping over certain things because I'm like, oh, that's not me. I would never do that. And with this, one of the things I said out loud, because I'm doing it with the group for some reason, and I'm like catastrophizing. And they all were like silent, and I was like, obviously not. And then I moved on to the next one, and no one said a word. And then it was really, really hot, and we're next to this thermostat thing. So I get up and I go to change it, and there's a big sign on it that says staff only, do not touch. And I'm looking at everyone, and I'm like, do you guys think this is serious? They're like, no. And so I take the thing off, I adjust it, I put it back on. And a few minutes later, I'm like pacing back and forth on the other side of the room, and they're like, are you okay? I'm like, what if the sign was on there because it's broken? Okay. And I just adjusted it, which means that it could start a fire. And this building's going to go on fire, and I'm going to go to prison once they look at the security footage and realize it was me. And then I'm not going to be allowed to get the treatment that I need because I won't be allowed back. And then I'm never going to get better. And like, as I'm saying all this, a staff member walks in, and I like literally told myself, I'm like, I adjusted the thermostat and I'm so sorry. And both the staff person and the other patients were just laughing, and they were like, you are the worst catastrophizer I've met in my whole life. And I was like, really? And they were like, yeah. So I like come with my piece of paper to therapy the next day. I'm like, do you think I catastrophize? And he's looking at me like, really? Like, there was no part of you that felt like you did that? I was like, no.
Yeah, it's sometimes hard to be like exact look in the mirror. It is hard. No, I could definitely agree with that.
I think we have, even with self-awareness, there's always going to be things that hindsight's always 20/20. You look back and you're like, oh, okay, maybe I do this, or I can tend to be that way. And that's why you need to have good friends to kind of just call you out on your shit,
Definitely. No, definitely. Yeah. And I think what's fun, I think the mind almost protects you from certain parts of yourself at certain times. Because it's hard to be so self-reflective all the time. Like, you want to think of yourself as like this or that or whatever, like, oh, I'm this great thing or whatever, whatever terminology, whatever mood you're in, it's situational. And then to be self-reflective all the time would be insane. Like, it would be a lot, and I think like we all have like this like way of dealing with it. So you clean? Is it like when you get like when you would get like depressed or something, you would to get out of it, you like clean basically? Is what more or less?
So
That's like
I think yeah, I would say the word cleaning is probably accurate. I do have a bit of a thing with like, germs and but I would also say that it's fair to in my head that in my head there's a way that clean looks and there's a way that dirty looks, and sometimes it could be one thing out of place and I can get kind of rigid about it, which in life is not the biggest of issues, but um, like there would be times where obviously there was something else going on and I was probably upset about that. And instead of being able to, and obviously if I was able to, I would have been dealing with it. But instead of being able to cope with that or process those emotions or sit with them, I'd be up for hours instead of sleeping, like forcing myself to finish cleaning. Because something horrible would happen if I didn't, kind of thing. So um, it's definitely one of those like weirder kind of things that I definitely was conditioned to be that way. Though my dad was always very, if there's one dish in the sink, he's gonna clean that dish. It's just like the personality I think of my dad that I kind of took on that trait and then took it to like a different level when I had my first house and was trying to like create like a nice space of living. And like I said, I moved in right after my mom had passed, and I think in my head, it'll feel nicer to live here if it's cleaner. And so there was no getting cleaner. It was like as clean as it could be.
I'm somewhat similar to that, but I mean I'm a dude, so I'm messier. But like just I'm gonna be honest, like but I mean I will complain about like the most mundane things. I'm like, man, this house is just a mess. It's like a trap house. I need to clean this. What's going on? And then like somebody else will be like, dude, it's not that. You just have some boxes there. Like, what are you talking about? Just like you have like, yeah, I'll see that a lot too. I don't act on it as much, but it does annoy me. Where I'll go like 3 days and I have to do something about it. I'll be like, oh my god, this has been too many days. Like it just depends on what I'm doing. I feel like I'm currently just like exhausted. It's like yeah, this would probably be the last show of the year actually that we're on right now because of like I want to sleep before the holidays and like get some rest. I've been doing this like 3 months and just started doing it every day and stuff. And like I mean, just hype that people even want to be a part of this, and like it's cool having guests like you on here. That I mean, and I want to take I just wanted to take a different angle this time than like oh, you want to watch all your music videos right now? Even because I think you're kind of a deeper artist, and like I want to kind of like, and people, you definitely should watch your music videos. Still. You should go do that. But I'm saying on your own time, not mine. But no, no, but I'm saying like I think like this is a good kind of episode. It's really just I mean I think people want to hear. I mean, the world is mass trauma marketing right now. I mean, it is just like threats of a civil war, threats of world war, threats of like power. I mean, dude, if you watch the news, you're gonna have a panic attack at this point. It's just like absurd. It's like I mean, you don't have to watch horror films or you don't have to read Stephen King anymore. You just have to turn on TV. It's like it's just I mean, everyone is dealing with something these last couple of years because of how hard like the 2020s have been so far, and like and just like, and then if you have anything on top of it, I mean, heaven forbid, you have actual disasters on top of all the televised ones, it's just like, it's just like, I mean, so I think people need to hear that not everything's like, I mean, it's like that Lord song, like we're not all like, we're not all just drinking Cristal and like sports cards and stuff. We're like, what's going on? Like, there's no Batman. Like, do we have to fix this? It's like, I have to fix this. It's like, that's what I feel like's going on right now. And I think like artists like you are kind of like part of that renaissance that's happening, and like, and kind of creating like the new like kind of reality things. I think we all got smarter these last 3 years, and I think like at a massive level because we're able to be home and bored and like I feel like I was the only one with free time, and then like everyone had free time for a second. I mean, I think like a lot of people got smarter during that time and like really just kind of studied and did their own thing. And I mean, some people just messed around. I mean, whatever. They never had a chance, But I was joking. But most people really I think became wiser in this time. Like they had to self-reflect. They're stuck with themselves, and they're stuck with their house, and they're stuck with the people that they liked at least situationally, and like figured out if they were, it's like, a lot of people went through a lot of stuff recently, and like we haven't had many tragedies outside. Like how old are you?
I am in my early 20s.
Yeah, so we haven't had much except for like maybe. Did you live through 9/11?
Yes.
That was maybe the worst thing we had until now. Like, I mean, that was like, we had like, oh man, that's tragic for like those people states away from me. And I'm not trying to be like, it wasn't in my backyard, is what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to diminish anything. That was a national tragedy. I'm saying, like, it wasn't in like your backyard. It wasn't like, oh my God, like today this could
Right.
happen. You know? That's how it feels right now. I mean, it feels right now like we're just in a for lack of better terminology, a mad world, you know?
It's like, it's definitely, it's really tough, you know, and just seeing how different people obviously, you know, react. There's a lot of really heavy phrases that get also thrown around. I mean, you know, depending on your thoughts about the situations, or it's a very difficult time. And I think, you know, while music is totally, you know, escape, I think that sometimes there's a really beautiful thing in learning to kind of sit with your emotions and process them. And, you know, that's what I hope that my music, you know, does. I definitely do have some more, um, you know, I call them power driven songs. Those are more, in my opinion, they're anger, but for other people, they might not sound angry. But, you know, this kind of song, for example, or even I put out a song just before this one called Disposable that actually features Donnie. And, you know, in those types of moments, it's kind of like there was just so many, you know, really amazing, but happier sounding like pop songs. And I felt like it would be really cool to have like a pop R&B track that was kind of back to that early, you know, 2000 sound with, you know, I don't know, like, probably won't mention the particular artist that it was inspired by, but, you know, one of them being, you know, Rihanna mixed in with definitely some of like a Celine Dion kind of thing, um, which sounds like a weird combination. But my point is I think that music can be a really beautiful way of learning how to have that universal experience without necessarily sitting next to the person. I know for me, having songs that I relate to has basically saved my life. I don't think I'd be here if it wasn't for music, and being able to know that like other people had felt the way I was feeling during those times. And personally, I'm actually pretty excited for the upcoming holiday. You know, I don't think I have been for the last few years, and I think that the song is a good reflection on, you know, I was really writing from what the last few years have looked like for me, and I think it just shows that, you know, it does get better, and it it might not feel like it, and it might feel like everything that can go wrong will go wrong, but there's genuinely such an opportunity to look at things and say, you know, it's okay to be in the present. Like, I'm safe. I can feel sad, and that's okay. And I don't have to minimize my situation. I don't have to exaggerate it just to be able to validate it. You know, I could just be here in the now and be like, I'm sad, and I'm gonna go listen to Arizona Lindsay's music.
It's awesome to be a part of that. Like, I think you're conscious on a level most artists aren't. You know, I think we're all in the game of self promotion. I'm more. I do comedy, you do music. We're both like. I mean, we're both in the industry of self promotion, but I think yours is more thoughtful, and I like that. No, I respect that you have like a reason to do art. You know, I just feel like I don't know what mine is. You know, I don't want a real job. You know, is that a real reason? You know, it's like I just feel like it's a lot. You're doing a lot better service for the world. You know, and I think like I respect that a lot. And I think people need to do that. And I think you're right about the holiday. I think it's going to be the best Kwanzaa of all time. I think it's not going to be like any other Kwanzaa I've ever had. You know, it's going to be like the best like Kwanzaa probably I've ever had, you know?
I'm a comedian too. I'm not formally a comedian, but I do tell some really good dad jokes
So wait, do you do comedy or are you messing with me?
Um, it depends on who you ask. I would say my therapist would say yes.
Have you considered doing stand-up?
I would love to. I genuinely have always thought about it, and like the people that I am close to, like my classmates, people, they're always telling me I should do it. Um, but no, I've never tried it. I don't know if I ever will, but I've been watching stand-up comedy since I was like a little kid, so
You try once, you're hooked. You're gonna be hooked. Like just if you do it, even if you bomb your first time, you're gonna be hooked. Like it's just like, and I don't think and I think somebody like you, the way you look at music and stuff, I could see it transferring to comedy for sure. But that's just I'm obsessed with comedy. That's just what that's just what I see. I think I'd rather take somebody who's never done comedy than somebody that's done it a million times. If somebody's done it a million times, they're kind of just. I like when I do shows, if I grab people, the people I think are funny and can turn into comedians are funnier than the actual people that have been like doing comedy forever that I've like seen. It's weird. It's weird. Just like a lot of my friends are funnier than like these comedians, and I'll just put them on shows and like they'll just kill out of nowhere. And then I don't know. And you're already into art, so you're not gonna get that ego. You know, it's like a lot of people like they go from like never being a performer to performing like one time, and then they just have like this ego. And I'm just like, oh my god, get over yourself. No one cares.
I work with a lot of those in the studio sometimes. So
Yeah, it's like I feel like I'll have an ego in like self-defense. If someone's like, "You've never done anything," I'll like name every accomplishment I think I've ever done. Well, like, no, it's not true. I've done this. You know, like I think in defense I'll do it, but like I'll never just like offensively just like act like I'm something. I think that's insecurity. I think if you're gonna act better than people, it's just insecurity. It's not real. Because like
people with real talent don't need to prove that they have that. They don't need to put other people down to feel valid or seen or heard. It's just not, in my opinion. I feel like the most talented people I've met don't really, they're not like that, honestly.
No, I agree to that too. Like, yeah, no, I've met a lot of really talented people, and I tend to agree. And like when I was 20, I mean, I was kind of that asshole, you know. I was just like, oh, I'm the best ever, you know. It's like blah blah. I'm like so great, you know. But then like as I actually start doing stuff, I don't even talk like that. I don't even think like that. I don't even like. I feel like that was like some weird like I was trying to convince myself type shit, you know. But yeah, I was like, man, I'm gonna, you know. And I think like you almost have to be delusional to go into art at all, really, in some level, you know.
It's
and
true.
Then it stops being delusional and other people take part in it. Like, I mean, it's like now that you're part of my delusion, I'm no longer delusional. So thank you.
They enable. Yeah, I mean, like I've been doing music since I was. I've been doing music since I could pretty much walk and talk.
That's awesome.
But I, started doing it like, playing out in shows and stuff like that when I was like, I think 11 or 12, something like that.
That's
And
crazy.
Well, growing up before that, I had done musical theater. I was a drummer. I was doing stuff. And then by the time I turned 11, I really wanted to pick up a more melodic instrument that wasn't musical theater and necessarily. And so that's when I picked up guitar and piano. And like, as far as songwriting, again, I've been songwriting since I was in second grade. But if someone asks me now, they'll be like, oh, are you a musician? And and they don't know me from my music. Maybe they're just meeting me at the store. I'll be like, kind of.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's so many people that would look at my guitar playing and be like, she doesn't really play guitar, or she doesn't really sing, or she doesn't really write. And so I take it from a stance of like, in my heart, I know what I do. I also know what my main day job is, which is being a musician. And so when someone says like, are you a guitarist? I'm just like, no, because I've met guitarists and they're people that are dedicated to their playing, or I'm not saying career, but they're significantly more focused on that. For me, it's definitely the songwriting and yeah.
I can agree to a lot of that. Like when I was young, like when I was like, I guess like 16 to like 24, somewhere in there. Like if someone, I would just tell everybody I was an artist. I was like, oh, I'm just like doing this thing. I'm a filmmaker. Like, where's your movies? Like, I never made one. It's like where's your, they're like, oh, I'm a musician. Like, where's your album? Like, oh, I never had an album. It was, I would just like, I would just like think I was this artist, before I did anything. And then like I remember like when I was like 28, like I wrote this article that pissed a lot of people off. It was like this like thing, and like to me it's funny. I like pro wrestling. I like ruffling people up. I like making them mad, But like, especially when I was younger, So I wrote this article, and they're like, this guy's racist and I'm a bad writer. And I'm like, man, they called me a writer. I'm like, holy, I'm like, dude, I'm a writer. Awesome, And like I've always been so self-aware of like I was to where like insults don't bother me. But like someone calling me a writer for the first time when I was 28, I'm like, whoa, dude, someone called me a writer. And like even though it was all negative, and they try to like literally write a bunch of hit pieces in like the Washington Post and like all these like newspapers people don't read even, but they try to like make fun of me and stuff and like diminish my character. Like this white supremacist writer, and I'm like, dude, I'm a writer. That's fucking cool. I'm finally a writer. Even if I'm not a good one. I never said I was a good writer, but at least I'm a writer. It's like better than like working at wherever else. It's like I felt like
Yeah, you're even for the good or the bad, you're being acknowledged for what you want to be known for. Well, for the most part. And I mean, the first time that I ever had my music reviewed, I got 10 reviews, and one of them was bad. So of course, I was focused on that one, and the person wrote, it was after I put out my very first song, so I think I wrote the song when I was 13, and, it was the first song I ever released, though, and, I released it at 17 or 18, and this person writes, "Not gonna lie, I don't like country music anyway, but this is like the Dollar Tree version of Carrie Underwood."
Holy fuck.
And I was like, first of all, it's not country music, but okay. And second of all, oh my god, they compared me to Carrie Underwood. That's amazing.
Dude, right? Yeah, no.
Right over my head.
No, that's the way it is. That's the way it is when you're first. You know, I feel that way a lot, man. Like people ask if I'm a good comedian. I'm like, I have no idea. I don't even want to. Like, I don't even. I'm not even gonna pretend I'm a good. You know, it's like, and they act like it's hard. Like your job's way harder than mine. Like people like I've been on like an airplane. This lady next to me is like, oh, you do comedy? It's like the hardest job ever. And I'm like, this is the hardest part because I'm terrified to fly. You know, it's like I'm over I'm like flying over the ocean for 6 hours to Hawaii. I'm like this death trap was the worst part of it. Like talking for 30 minutes doesn't take any talent, but like writing a song does probably, you know. But like, you know, so I think musicians are like what every comedian probably wants to be, but isn't talented enough to be, because and then we just don't want jobs. Like we're like not as talented as you, but we just don't want a job. So we're like, oh no, I'm a comedian, you know. But it's, like, and then it starts like delusional, and then people start paying you, and all of a sudden you're like, I just got paid $1,000 to like mumble into a microphone for like 30 minutes. I'm like, dude, this is the best job ever, you know. And like people will tell me it's good, but I'm just like, oh, I mean, I don't even think it's good. I think it's dumb, you know. I think I have the dumbest job, to be honest. I think like music's like this very same job in the way that you like tour. You have to like book shows, you sell merch. I mean, except for you have to like write music and like be talented. Like that's the only difference. It's like you have to be talented, and I don't think I have to be. And I think, you know, I think I could just be a bullshit artist in comedy like forever, and like literally not even have to be good.
To argue with that though, being a bullshit artist is kind of a talent. It can be used in different ways, but I would say, I mean, I think comedians are just amazing. There's specific comedians that I've definitely, you know, like have gravitated towards over the years. And I think one of the things that I love about stand-up comedy is that I could be if I'm happy, I can reinforce that because I'm laughing and I'm watching something that's funny. And if I'm sad, it makes me laugh. And it's like, you know, like one of my favorite things to do when I'm sad is to look up cat videos of just like cats doing like funny things. And that's how I found, there was this, I can't remember, it's this comedian, and he was just talking about what cat ladies are really like nowadays. And he was just talking about like women who don't want to be married in their 20s.
Dude, that's so funny.
I was like cracking up, but like I forgot in that moment that I was like even sad, because I'm just, you know, there's something really nice about being able to be kind of pulled into a story. And I think I think that's why it's like one of the, I don't know, like I said, I've always like been interested in comedy in that way, but I definitely would leave you know, it to the people who have like a little bit more social skills. I joke that I sing on stage because if I talked on stage, you would be like, what's happening right now? Okay, like.
No, I see, I'm the opposite. I mean, if you'd be singing, you'd be like, what happened? No, I definitely can relate to that. I definitely relate to that. And like maybe it is social skills, because like I feel like all I did was like, I mean, from like, I don't know, like 16 to like 24, all I did was like hang out, you know, and like I didn't even try at life really, you know. And I mean, I feel like I didn't anyway, you know. And then like and then I started trying, like I like met my wife, and I'm like, oh man, I better start trying at life before she like dates like the neighbor instead, you know, or some other dude, you know. Like, man, if I don't get my life together, this girl's not gonna fucking be with me long, you know. So I feel like that was like the start of it, and it's sad that it took me 28 years to take life seriously, you know. But I don't care about that. Everyone else cared about it. Everyone else cared about it, but I didn't care. Like this guy just like doesn't do, you know. But however you come into it, man, I think art's the most fun thing on earth and the only reason to be here. And you touched on what I meant to touch on. I rambled, and like, who cares about the last 5 minutes what I said? But what I'm trying to say is like, when you said the cat view thing, I had the same experience with like Ross Creations and like Norm Macdonald on YouTube. Like I would like Ross Creations. You seem like this dude who's just always happy doing like these weird things on YouTube. He's like a Florida version of Mr. Beast, and like and I mean that in a good way. And then I think that and like Norm Macdonald too. Like Norm Macdonald had these like one-liners that would just like cheer me up no matter what mood I was in. And I think that's powerful in art, and there's not enough of that art. Everything's like low vibration, and I think we're getting out of that though. I think we're getting out of that, going into Renaissance. Like no one's gonna listen to like people are gonna look back at like rap and like, what was that just like commercial for the privatized prisons? You mean like do drugs, get arrested, write a manhood? Like what are you doing? Are you just selling rooms in prisons? You mean it's like that's how I feel like they're gonna look at it. I think country's having a resurgence right now, and I think it's gonna be a good time for artists like you that already had your like foot in the game, and it gets bigger. So I think country's about to be huge again. It already kind of is, but I think it's gonna like the top. I think I looked a couple weeks ago. The top 10 songs were all country. I mean, all like 8 of them were country.
Oh,
So
wow.
I think you're in a good time for like your career and what you're doing. And I think like it all winds. I mean, you had to do years of work to get to where you're at, obviously, and like and like hone your craft. And I mean, it's a lot of sacrifice. I mean, did you have to sacrifice a lot to be an artist too? I mean, I feel like I did to a degree.
Yeah, so much. Um, I think the pandemic was definitely pivotal in my career, and actually, um, in terms of my career in a positive way, because I had won this competition, which is kind of what set off me wanting to put 2 feet through the door. Because I had two, full-time things. I was going to grad school and I was doing music, and when I won the competition, I was like starting to like consider, leaving grad school and focusing on that. And then well, 2 weeks after I won the competition was when I actually was admitted into the trauma hospital for the first time. And so there was a lot. It wasn't just like an easy process of, I signed some paperwork and then like got help. There was just so much that went into it, and, desperate attempts I was sick. And by the time I got out, I like came out of the hospital, and I had a few months where I was trying to kind of tie back the pieces to what I had been working on. I just won this competition. There were prizes I had to do and interviews, um, and I was doing all that. And then I decided to go back to kind of process more stuff. And I come out and I can't stop at the gas stations on the way home. Like, I was in New Orleans and I was trying to get back to New York. I couldn't stop at the gas station. Like, I was so confused at what was happening in the world. Like, it did not make any sense. And obviously that was like, it was in, I think March or April. So it was right after everything had like really shut down. And I just decided, I was like, if I am going to make my life worth living after everything that I've been through, the only way I can see that is through music. And I don't know what this is going to look like for me. I don't know what stability this is going to look like for me, but I know that this is the only thing that is something that nobody has, you know, groomed me to do. This is something I have always, my heart has always been so connected to it. And I, decided to kind of just build off of, the competition, and build off of that kind of push that I was getting at that time. Unfortunately, that didn't really go anywhere, that particular thing, but it did lead, a year later, I was playing in Times Square for Wonderama. And just recently I played in the Long Island Hall of Fame, which was like super awesome. And so it's definitely been a slow burn, but it's something that I've dedicated my life towards doing. And I decided to finish my master's anyway, because I like being able to talk and write about mental health from a perspective of not just from my own, but from a place of genuinely understanding it from a universal experience. And but yeah, I mean, so I had to sacrifice things, like consistency and stability, and even now just kind of waiting for what they say it takes one repost from like the right person of a cover that you did or a song that you put out, for the right person to get it, and then hundreds of new fans to come in. And so my my producer Donnie's always talking about it. He's like, just got to get that one repost. And I'm always like, just waiting for it, keeping my head up and focusing on what's important to me, which is, in the meantime, letting everybody that does hear it, when I get 200 views on a post, I'm like, that's 200 people that didn't know who I was yesterday, with an exception of like my 5 friends that watch everything I do. So,
No, yeah, it's super true. And I think people need to understand that you need like 2 people before 20, you need 20 before 200, you need 200 before 2000. I think people need to understand it, and they don't want to get I mean, someone like you that's getting established like at the rate you're doing, you guys usually last longer. It's like the people that like have just started and like the Soldier Boy or something, you know, they just kind of do it for 5 minutes, blow up and stuff. That never lasts. Even and I think more important in art is to last. It's not just to pop off once, but to last. And I definitely see you as somebody that's going to continuously get bigger. And I think you're already in a good situation, but I think you're going to continuously get bigger. And I think that and I agree with that one post idea too. But I think like it's gonna be bigger than that. You just being like viral for 15 seconds. I think it's gonna be a thing that like you have a lot of substance is what I'm saying. And like people are already relating to what you do. I mean, I was reading the comments, people were saying like what your music's done and stuff like that. And like there's some comments on Rumble not showing up too. I mean, people are really like they don't show up on screen, but people are really
Not
kind of
for
like
me, no.
yeah, but they're really kind of digging what you're doing. And I think that's important. Your authenticity brings you there. And then I think like the fact that people are drawn to it is already a good sign. And I think that it's just going to continue to get bigger and like you just it's just gonna you're still like really young, and I think it's gonna continue to get bigger and continue to be whatever. I mean, you know, it's like I mean look how big, like I just a bad example maybe. A lot of people don't like Taylor Swift. I think she's talented, but like I'm saying like look how big she is now compared to like even 5 years ago. You know what I mean like she's like probably one of the biggest artists on earth at this point. And I think that took a long time. I mean, the same thing. She started young like you, kept with it. I mean, and I don't know, a lot of I don't know how you feel about Taylor Swift. I feel a lot of artists don't like her, but
I am a huge Swiftie. I
okay.
love her.
That's to be honest, not a lot of people would see it as like I mean that very like just as a compliment. And I think that I think that that's all. I mean, that's all it ever is. You know, it's just like doing it a million times, and then all of a sudden, what you said yesterday seems interesting when it didn't yesterday. Like I mean, just like that's how I feel as a comedian. At least it's like I've been saying the same thing since I was like 19. Although I maybe got better values, you know. But now that I'm like old, people want to hear me say it versus like when I'm young, they're like whatever. That's this guy with the mohawk know about anything, you know. And I think that just kind of like I think it just kind of keeps going. You know, I think it's just like it's just gonna snowball. I mean, no matter what you you have like a lot of music videos, a lot of music and stuff like that. So I mean that one share you're talking about, like theoretically, everyone would just go through back catalog and like. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's like you already have like. I mean, just anyone caring about what you're doing at all is a good sign. Even if there's one person, and that shows that people will care about what you're doing. And then like you're past the one person thing, obviously, where it's like thousands now. But I'm saying like it'll probably continuously get bigger. Like I mean, you're a bigger artist than you were when you're on here. Like were we on here a year ago, maybe 2 years ago? And I mean you're getting more. I mean you're already bigger, more like mature and collective, and like I mean. And I didn't mean you're immature before, but just you're more yourself, and you just continue to become more yourself, you know. And I think that's what's important. I think that's
it's definitely I feel like there was definitely a stage of like promotion where it was like really more popular to try to look perfect, to be perfect, and I'm not saying that that doesn't exist, but I think that for the good and the bad. That's kind of out. And I think that people are starting to want to see people that look like them and talk like them and are relatable. Like, you hear those like celebrities doing these interviews and talking about having like, I forget what it was even on, but people were like, I can't relate to that because I don't have like millions of dollars for X, Y, and Z. Like people, they just want somebody to relate to. And I think, obviously I can't relate to everybody over everything, but I think learning to just be yourself and having people around you that are encouraging you to be yourself and not trying to get you to fit like an image. Like that whole aspect of the music industry is gone. This whole like we're going to get you to look like this stereotypical pop star and we're going to get you to do a billion interviews and have you sit like this and make sure your hair looks like this and like it doesn't work anymore because people don't care, and I don't think they should. I think that it's healthier that people are looking to see relatability over perfection, because that perfection doesn't really exist.
No, that's a lot of great points. Like that's a lot of no, you touched on a lot of good things. Like I think no, I mean sorry, you kind of got me like thrown off a little bit. Like that is real. No, the authenticity is the most important thing I think, regardless, because I think that's how you make a real connection. Like I think if I was like I think if you pretend to be somebody, I mean, anytime I was fake, I just surround myself with fake people, you know. And like it's like a Jim Morrison quote. I don't know if you like the Doors at all.
Yeah.
Okay, I was a big Doors fan when I was big into music. Like I love like one of my favorite bands probably, as far as like nostalgia wise, I guess at this point. But he said like a real friend is someone you can be yourself around. And, like that was like a Jim Morrison quote, and I think that kind of sums up what you said. I think that's super real. That like I think I'm blessed that like I was broke so long. I'm blessed to have real people around me. You know what I mean? Like I was never. You know what I mean like I was never like it was never like for something fake. They just liked me. You know, it was like you know I like refuse. I don't know how to describe it if that sounds like a complete bum, but I like refuse to get a day job and just blindly chase my dream. So during my 20s, I was like super broke, and like all my friends around me, like basically had my back so hard, and like I just really appreciate that. My family and like I mean, so many people just had my back and like enabled me to be. I mean, that's why I feel like I have my mom's back right now because I feel like she I always mess with her and like tell her her back she had to have back surgery. She was carrying me for so long, you know. I was just like, you know, I always like make jokes like that. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, you know, you're just carrying me so long. You had to get spine surgery, you know, and like, and just and I feel like I'm very blessed. What I'm trying to say, and I think like being able to have guests like you on here, being able to have people watch this. I mean, this is all a blessing, and this doesn't happen. How many people want a podcast, or how many people want to make music, and like how many people don't? You know what I mean? And how many people just like. I mean, I've heard a lot of people tell me, like, and they probably tell you the same thing with music wise. Like, they'll be like, hey, man, I want to start a podcast and this. I'm like, prepare to be broke for 5 years, man. Prepare to just be impoverished. Everyone tell you you're fucking delusional. And then one day you do it, and those same people hate you because you did it.
Yep. It's so accurate. I mean, when I played in Times Square, I was so excited, and I just saw this weird amount of people get quiet or didn't acknowledge it, or like it was the first time I realized that not everybody that's always like watching you is always a fan. And I mean, I've known that. I have definitely some people who you know, I mean, I think we all have people where we're the villain in their story, or their narrative. And you know, I've always been the type of person where it might be naive, but I still do believe that there's nothing in this world that can't be solved by just talking about it. And, you know, I think that communication skills is a really big thing that can be very difficult to, it can be difficult to do, especially in conflict, because, you know, it's not always the most satisfying response to listen and to genuinely try to work out something. But in terms of like the music industry, you know, like, I mean, realizing like there were certain people that I put complete trust into, like I was living in my car and taking every penny that I had that I was making playing at bars and stuff and handing it over to like a PR company. And it probably in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't for them a lot of money. For me, it was my own money. But you know, they're promising to get you this interview or to do this, or they're going to follow through with whatever it is. And you know, I think at some point you look around and you're like, these are the friends that have been next to me before before I had even the smell of a bit of success, because it comes in kind of these waves. And I mean, being on Wonderama was an incredible experience, but it definitely felt like a big high and then a big dip. It was kind of like, I remember walking in New York City to the stage, and these people were asking to take pictures with me after I performed, and I felt like on top of the world. And then like the next day I go home, nobody asked me how of course, you know, that's, you know, the way that my house is, you know, but nobody asked me how like my show went or things like that. And I remember just feeling like, so I'm important there and I'm not important here. And it was so hard for me to kind of grasp. And then I remember talking to, I went into the studio and I was talking about it to some of the members of my production team. And they were like, we see this like all of the time. People that go on like American Idol or The Voice, it's like you get that 15 minutes of fame and you feel really, really good. And you're like, this is where my life is going, is so great. And then you get back home and you're like, everything's the same. and it's really hard. Or you go back to staying in your car and you're like, so what's next? I guess this didn't work. And it's hard to see that it's a slow burn and that things are going to work out. Like I said, you meet one person who has the right connections, because this industry, more than anyone probably, that's all connections. And you meet someone who really believes in you. And, I feel strongly that that's kind of how you get where you want to go, is by being good to people and doing the best you can, when you've made mistakes, to right them and not burn bridges. And, all the mistakes that we all probably made when we were like 20.
Yeah, I feel like I burned too many bridges because I'm just like I'm kind of an asshole. But I do think that like I'm a filter. I'm like a filtering system. Like if I think you're talented, I'll fucking move the world. I'll back whatever crazy ass thing someone asks me to do if I think they're talented. But if someone's not talented, I'm just like, you're wasting your time. And I don't mean to be real. I love being proved wrong. My definition doesn't mean anything. It just means what I think in that exact moment of when I say, But so I mean, if I tell somebody they can't do it, I would love for them to pull up in their Lamborghini and tell me how wrong I am. I mean, I love that shit. I love being proven wrong, and I love learning. But at the same time, if someone's like, I just can't even pretend that someone's really doing something. I just can't fake it. I have to, and I don't mean in a mean way. And people have done that to me. I don't mean that in a mean way, but I just feel like I'll be very honest if someone's good or not. And I think that's important. I think that's important.
Honesty is definitely important, because there's a lot of people who I've seen, they're paying these or they're putting this trust in people who don't even really care for them or believe in them. And I mean, one of those PR teams that I was just bitching about like a minute ago, I'll never forget, after we were in contract, after all those things, them telling me they didn't want me to talk about mental health. And
That's so dumb.
I was like, they were like, yeah, you shouldn't wear plaid because you don't look good in it. And at the time, that's all I wore was plaid shirts and a beanie. And I'm just sitting there why didn't you just tell me that? Because I would have probably not, because like I said, they're making these decisions and you're like, they're going to know better. They're going to know better. And then, as a young musician, you realize, or a young person in the entertainment industry, you're like, if people were just honest about their intentions and their feeling towards you, your image, your music, your brand, you'd be better off. Because if you don't dig me, you don't dig what I talk about, whatever, that's fine. I'm not going to sit here and try to convince you if my music's good. I'm not going to try to convince you nothing. I just don't want to work with you. That's it.
Yeah, I feel like, man, I have so many feelings about what you just said. I hate PR companies, and I hate managers, and I hate any of these people. Like any guest I book, there's a couple exceptions where I work with a publicist. If somebody's really interesting, I'll go through their publicist. But I mean, I went directly through you, and that's, I mean, you can pretty much go through most of my guests. I've gone through the person, because when I go through a publicist, they don't make the person show up on time. Like today, I was late. Actually, you were here before me, so congratulations. You actually, I'm kind of a hypocrite right now. But I'm just saying, you were on time and I wasn't, so I'm kind of a hypocrite. But I'm saying, most of the time when I go through a publicist, the person's late or they don't show up, and I have no contact line with them. I can't just be like, hey, what's going on? I'm there right now, or hey, I'm there. I can't even say that, so I have no line of contact. They had all these dumb ideas that if they worked, they'd be a famous person. You know what I mean? It's like if you knew what I was doing, you'd be doing it instead of telling me what you think I'm doing. And I feel like that a lot. I feel like they're con artists and they want your money and they have nothing to offer except for taking payments. They're very good at taking payments. And then outside of that, they have nothing to offer. If you're going to get anywhere, you're going to get there yourself. And then you're going to get so far that people are going to ask to be your manager, and it's already too late. Because you already have a team, or you already did it, and that's how I feel. It's like when I needed a manager, nobody wanted to manage me. Now that I'm I just did a 20-state tour. I just headlined in Hawaii. You know what I mean? Like people. I mean, and people are like, "Go be your manager." I'm like, what could you possibly do that I couldn't copy paste my way to? You mean what can you mean? That's how I feel.
Yeah.
I don't mean in a mean way. I just feel like managers and publicists are for people that are insecure and don't understand their own power. Because if you understood your own power, you'd never listen to somebody that has no idea what they're doing, in my opinion. And you start there young. You were young probably when you had that stuff, and everyone starts there because you think there's a way you have to do it. You think like as a musician, I was in music. I just was, like I said, I wasn't talented. I had a band and stuff. I wasn't very talented. I thought you had to have the record label. I thought you had to have the manager. I thought you had to have opening for national bands. I thought, you know how many guys I talked to brag about opening for people, and I'm just like, I would flip. I don't want to say what I would do, but I would flip out if I was opening for people. You know what I mean? I would literally just I would be I'm 37. If I was like in my 20s, whatever, but if I was like 15 or something like that, whatever, but bro, I'm 37 years old. If I'm opening, and if I open for somebody later, it's my ironic moment. But I'm just saying, like, I would if they're really cool and they're really fun. And
Right.
there's ways, but that's not something I'd brag about for like ever. I would
Right.
never be like, hey, one time I opened for a cool person that has a job, Like, that's what it sounds like. And it's like one time I opened for a guy that does my dream. This guy has my dream, and I opened for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like to me. And I don't mean any disrespect. I think you start somewhere. I think everybody starts somewhere. So if you're opening for people, good job. Just don't let that be your climax. You know what I mean? Just like do more, work harder. It's like and I don't
Again,
know.
I think it comes back to the ego. It's like how you present yourself. If you're like, like I've worked with, like I had one of my classmates came across my music, and they came back into school and they're like, "You worked with DMC."
That
They're
was
like,
dope.
"How could you have?" Yeah, thanks. They're like, "How could you have not mentioned that?" I'm like, "Well, because my whole career has not been this one track. It was a monumental point in my life, and it's something that's so special to me. I can't even like verbalize it. But when someone says like, "Are you a musician?" the first thing that comes out of my mouth is not the different people that are famous that I've worked with. It's I'm a songwriter. I've written for artists. I've featured different artists. Um, you know, it's it's a pleasure to be able to work with them, but it's also trying to, um, like unless I have thousands and thousands of people streaming music on, Spotify, to listen to that one song, then there's got to be something next for me to focus on and to be promoting and to try to push with that. And I mean, coming, full circle back to the Christmas song, I think, I was thinking like, what is not out in the world today? What does the world like need? And I don't know. The only sad Christmas song at that time that I could really think about was like Christmas shoes. And so it was like, what if we had a more modern, song that people can listen to that makes them feel, you know, be in their feelings without taking away a sense of hope. Um, and I hope that I hope that the music that I'm putting out in 2024, I actually haven't announced this yet, but I might be needing to well, I'm probably going to be moving forward with re-releasing my album, The Process, which is actually the first interview that we did together was, I think, promoting the album um, because I just need it through. I have these new remasters and some different creative aspects that I took on it, and I think that the songs just didn't get the love and attention that they deserved when it came out. I was still basically in and out of the trauma treatment center, and so I think this is an opportunity for me to put it out and really be like, hey, this is coming out and I'm going to talk about it and I'm going to let everybody know about it. So for all of you listening, I have plenty of music out in my discography you could go listen to right now from different genres, with different collab artists. There's going to be some new stuff coming in 2024 that I mean, I'm biased, but I think it's exciting.
That's awesome. I think we should end on that. That was powerful. I think if we keep going, it's gonna get redundant. I think we captured a good thing right here. And I think if you want to throw any links or like down for people that I mean, I'm sure your people are watching too, so maybe redundant. But if you want to throw out some links for people that may have been like just watching the show and like haven't heard your music and stuff like that, like let them know where they could hear you for the first time, or what song they should listen to first, maybe even like to get into the whole like vibe you're doing.
Yeah. So um, my brain just was thinking about my lights are programmed to go off at a certain time. So if I go black, I'm just gonna turn them on my phone, but I'm still here. um, yeah. So if you're listening to my music for the first time, you can listen anywhere that you listen to music, but I do recommend Spotify at this time, or Apple Music. But It's on plenty of other platforms. My newest song is called I'm Not Ready for Christmas, and that is the song that I wrote about going through the holidays and also dealing with loss or grief or just really feeling kind of like you're missing something. And that has an official video out on YouTube. There's like a lyric video, and it is also on Spotify. Make sure you follow me on Spotify, even if you're not going to listen to my music there, because it helps me out a ton. And the song that I'd recommend starting with, if you're not into that, would probably be Worth the Fight. There is a version that features DMC of Run DMC, and it's the first song that I ever was the executive producer on that had a full band instrumental, and it's me playing all the different instruments, and it's a pretty cool song, so you should check it out.
I didn't know you put all the instruments on that. That's awesome. I didn't know that about that song. I remember when that song dropped, and I remember that was awesome. But I didn't know that you produced that and wrote all the music. Congrats on that. That's actually really cool. That's definitely an accomplishment, I'd say. Like a lot of people are posers, and it's cool to hear that people like actually do something themselves these days. You know, I respect that.
Oh yeah, everything is pretty much always me playing my own instrumentations, with the exception of the bass guitar, which I often, specifically for my album The Process, handed off to my good friend Law. And my most recent music, the piano parts have been with Donnie, and any like beats or instrumental stuff from the newer stuff has been with Donnie as well. He's amazing. So yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for coming back on it, and we'll, as you keep doing music, we'll definitely have you back. I mean, I appreciate what you're doing, and I appreciate your time and stuff. And if you're watching at home, I appreciate you doing that and spending your Wednesday like this. I know time's crazy, and I know you got to wake up early probably and do a bunch of things you don't want to do. So I appreciate you taking the time to listen to us talk and check out her music and listen to this episode on repeat over and over again. So Spotify thanks people listening to my podcast. And buy everything from the sponsors, because I'm trying not to be poor anymore. So thank you all for watching, and thank you, Arizona Lindsay, for joining the show and going backwards in your career to be here. I appreciate you taking the time to be on the cell phone podcast, and I hope everyone in the world listens to your music 3 times this holiday. And
thank you. That would be the greatest gift ever.
What would that be like? That would be like $1 million like Spotify check, you know, like if you had what is that, like 8 billion views 3 times? That'd be a great that'd be a great Spotify check right there. Only listen on Spotify. It's where they get paid the most. These artists get paid the most on Spotify, so don't listen on anything else. Just put it on repeat while you go to sleep and stuff. Even if you're not listening, get these people paid. They need our money. Like these people are sacrificing a lot of their time to entertain us, and I appreciate you guys even watching this cell phone show. You know, it takes it'd be delusional if nobody was watching this, and it'd be delusional if there were no guests. So I appreciate everybody. And like, I love when somebody only comments, "Great show, guys." Like at the end, like they were watching the whole thing, and their only comment was at the end. I love that, you know. So thanks, professional slime.
That's my mixing and mastering engineer.
Oh, really? Okay, that's awesome. And he watched the whole thing. Then that's awesome. That's how you know. That's how you know people watch the whole thing. A lot of people drop off at like the 1.5 hour mark, so they start going to sleep. I can tell, but they'll watch this later. Everybody watches this later, so they'll get like a bunch of stuff later. And I thank you very much for, like I said, like coming on here. I appreciate it, and I'm gonna stop saying bye like I'm from Missouri and say bye 7 times. That's what we do here. We say bye 7 times here. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Lindsay. I appreciate everybody. I'm gonna get out of here and end the stream. It's over now, guys. Bye.